Liv, how you going?
Pretty good, Andrew. How are you?
Very good, thanks.
Great.
You're part of the Moonward design team.
I am.
You're a very creative person who's
Thank
had a very adventurous life, let's say.
Yeah.
Take me back a little bit. Was design your first and true passion in life?
I think it always has been. I've always been a creative as a kid. If I go back to when I was 10 years old, Nana would, have all the art gear out and we'd be painting. So I grew up in a very artsy family.
Yeah.
Then moving on to school, to high school, grade 8, grade 9, I did art class and that was fun. But I kind of transitioned out of the creative art and went into drama.
Okay.
I was a bit of a drama girl.
I like that.
Yeah. And then I moved into uni to be a web designer. And I
Very
went to
interesting.
QT.
Web
Yes.
designer as in development?
No,
Or
like
graphic designer?
designing web
Okay.
as a not a developer, but as a designer.
Great.
And I did that and I absolutely hated it.
Wow.
Like uni actually ruined it for me.
Really?
It was so the way just what they taught us was very old school. It was very dinosaur.
Yeah.
And we learned a little bit of code, but like all the practices we did were we were just bombarded with so much information.
Yeah.
And coming from someone who's never done coding before, any sort of web development, was really just, what is this? It wasn't catered to those who were coming in for the first time.
Yeah.
So I actually went, nah, I do not want to be a web designer, but look, I'll continue this course. And it was learning a lot about, I did a lot of the Adobe suites, which was great. A lot of sort of product designs and things like that. But coming to the end of my degree, I was so confused and still not sure about where I wanted to go.
So you finished the whole web design degree?
I did. And when I say web, it was like a couple of subjects that were actually focused on web design.
Yeah.
A lot of it was just a general course. Like we did a course on typography where we created our own type, and that was really fun.
Very cool.
Yeah, so it was digital, basically like interactive and visual design, which is what the course was called.
And at what point did you sort of start falling out of love with the design side of things?
Oh my gosh, probably 2 years in.
Yeah, so you're halfway through.
Halfway through, I was like, don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And after 2 years, you choose to take on another minus degree.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing interior design.
Okay.
And I really loved it. It was like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that, but my grades were naturally better.
So what attracted you to the interior design?
It was, I liked a little bit of architecture.
Yeah.
And the structure of it as well. So learning how to read plans and basically build your own Sims house. Yeah. Which is, fun.
Did you play Sims?
I did a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I did a little bit.
Okay.
It was exciting to build the houses, but I never played the people.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I was like, interior design's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that was just like a short course or like a semester or something like that?
I did that for the rest. So my course was, I think, 3 years, but I pushed it out to 4. So the last 2 years, it was a mixture of interior design and the graphic design.
Yeah. And so you wrapped it up.
I wrapped it up.
And so you graduated. What are you thinking at that point? Are you still like, I hate design, I'm over this? Or you're like, I'll give it another shot?
No, I don't hate it, but I was like, I don't know where I want to go. I felt like I had no direction of where I wanted to pursue my design career. And so the thoughts were, oh my gosh, I've wasted my time. I've wasted all this money. I don't know what to do. So I kind of sat with it for a year and then went over to Canada and live there for a year.
As you do.
With my boyfriend, and I was like, I just need to break away.
Yeah.
You know, I have no constraints at home, so why don't we just go live overseas for a year?
Why Canada? What took you guys over there?
So my boyfriend was doing a round the world trip and ended up being his last spot in Canada, where he met his friend, and his friend was like, why don't you just do a working holiday visa here? Mm-hmm. So he called me and he was like, do you want to do this? I was like, sure, let's go. Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah. It was pretty fun.
So what did you do over there?
So I took up a couple of jobs. I was a waitress, a server, as they call them.
Great.
Did that for a couple of months, and that was really cool, learning the whole tipping.
Had you done hospitality before?
I didn't know, but I just told them I did, and I faked it.
I love that.
It was great. It was good fun.
Did you enjoy it?
I did. I think I did.
Yeah.
It was like a huge learning curve though, because they take it so seriously over there.
Yeah.
And it's so much different to Australia. But it was a great learning experience. And then, because we were coming into winter, things started to slow down, and I wasn't getting enough shifts to basically afford the place.
Yeah.
For Canada, so I decided to quit that, and I went to work as a TCP, which is a traffic control person.
Really?
Yeah. So I worked for a construction company, and they were doing their work on the roads at a uni.
So you would work on the roads?
Yeah. So
amazing.
we were at a uni actually, and they were like digging up roads and doing this, and I was, because this is in the middle of winter too in Canada. So I had like 7 layers on. I was this big marshmallow, and all you could see is like my eyes with this like helmet thing. I looked hideous, and just standing here with like a little stop go sign.
That is full-on shit. I love that.
Directing the traffic through and pedestrians and.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is so funny.
So it was pretty funny.
That's hilarious. It's funny because I was having a chat with Bobby the other day, and he comes from a very heavy hospitality background.
Really?
And he's got this concept that, like some countries you have to do military service. He feels like everyone should have to do some sort of hospitality service. And I totally agree with him, because I think when you do hospitality, you sort of get thrown in the deep end. I don't know what it's like in Canada with the whole tipping side of things. But what we sort of liked about it was it's super fast paced. Like you have to basically learn on the go, but generally there's some sort of like systems in place. So there's a system, there's a process, and if you're able to execute it like quickly under pressure, you'll be able to perform.
100%. It's like the process is you go to your table, you sit them down, you bring them water, you bring them the thing, and then you go wait 5 minutes, go back, check what they want, get their drinks. It's like it's a process for every single table, and then you have to manage like 5 different tables that are at different stages, plus helping out, other people who are your co-workers and, whatever. It's, you learn people skills, management skills very quickly.
Absolutely. And I think people skills is the greatest as well.
Yeah.
I say it all the time that I personally believe people skills always get you so much further than, say, like a technical skill, being a good designer, being a good developer, whatever it might be. Because in order to be a successful designer, generally you have to convey or communicate with someone your design work or whatever it might be. And the people skills and the communication skills is always the first thing that comes into play in a situation like that.
Definitely. It's, if you can't communicate with your clients or even with your co-workers that you work with, you're not going to get very far. You can be the best designer out there, but if you don't have the skill to know how to talk to people, make friends, and build those long-standing clients, it's going to be very difficult for you. You're going to make things harder for yourself. So learning how to talk to people, understanding that, if someone pisses you off, they might just be having a bad day.
Exactly.
Just as you've probably had a bad day and you've pissed someone else off, but, you don't realize it at the time, and you're like, oh, I hope that person has a little bit of empathy for me. Like, so recognizing both sides of that is really important.
100%. So you did hospo for 12 months, was it?
Yeah, like, oh, no, actually, hospo probably like 3 months.
Okay,
yeah. And the rest of the time, I worked as a TCP.
So the TCP, how long did you do that for?
Probably like 8 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
It was actually not bad. Like,
Yeah.
I was a steady paycheck. The people I worked with were so nice.
Yeah.
I was the only girl there.
Yeah.
But no, the guys are just so kind.
Yeah.
And of course it would be, so the weather in Vancouver is, in winter, is rain. It's just constant rain. I've never seen so much rain in my life. So for the 7 months of this winter, I kid you not, we had 4 days of sun.
Nice.
4 days.
That's amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm working out there in the cold, in the rain, and if I was in this certain, location of where we were working, at one point I had a gate behind me, and one of the guys would bring over this little umbrella and put it up behind me and tape it so I'd be at least steady on this little umbrella.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I didn't do it to any of the other guys that were like TCB. It was just me. So
yeah.
I got a little bit of special treatment.
Yeah.
It was nice.
That's very nice. And so working with like in an all-guy environment, were they all Canadian, the guys as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, all Canadian.
And how did you find that from like a cultural perspective? Did you sort of get on with it and you enjoyed it from day one, or there was like always that sort of like figuring out the environment?
No, actually, it was very easy.
Yeah.
It was a very smooth transition, and it may have been because I've been living in Canada for 4 months since then. But I also think it was the people of the construction group.
Yeah.
And they were just very welcoming, very joking, and very respectful as well.
Yeah.
And they were good hard workers too.
Yeah.
So having all of that there made me feel like I was also part of the team. I may have been the only girl, maybe only Aussie.
Yeah.
But I felt part of the group.
So at this point in time, you've finished your degree. You've sort of had like an opportunity, randomly jump up to move over to Canada. You've taken on a couple of different roles which are, I guess, quite unique and not necessarily the roles that, everyone picks up. What do you think inspired your adventurous decision making at this point in time? Like, why would someone like you comfortably say yes to a job like this?
Well, even saying yes to going over to Canada itself was almost a easy decision. Yeah. Because I'd been living in my Brisbane bubble for so long that I needed a shake up. Yeah. And I needed a big one. It wasn't just moving states moving suburbs. I needed to move overseas.
So what was sort of like bubbling away in the background to make such a big change in your life?
Well, finishing uni and doing that, before I even finished uni, I thought, going to this degree, I know I'm going to be, a graphic designer or even a designer working in the industry because that's what everyone else is doing. Being at uni then, being surrounded by other people like me, I've realised a lot of people knew exactly where they wanted to go and I was still a bit confused. Yeah. And then obviously finishing uni, I was just as confused as when I first started. So I just realised that I've been obviously doing the same things for so long, stuck in the same habits, and I just needed a shake up to find out also who I was as a person. Yeah. And I thought, and the opportunity came up. I didn't think, okay, I need to move overseas. It was the opportunity came to me. Yeah. And I was like, this is the universe speaking to me right now. Yeah. Like, I would be stupid to say no. Yeah. Because then I'd be in the exact same confusion state as where I am now. So by saying yes, I went overseas and lived in Canada, totally different environment, and I took on different jobs. I knew going over to Canada, I didn't want to be a receptionist, or because that's what I also had been doing for so long.
Yeah.
I wanted to do everything different to, figure out what other parts of me I like, and what other things in the world excite me, and just build more of a personality for myself.
For sure. And so how old were you when you moved over to Canada?
That was like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
25?
25. So in like the grand scheme of things, let's say it didn't go to plan,
yeah.
and you couldn't find a job, and you only managed to do 2 months instead of 12, and you came over. You haven't really lost anything anyway. Like, I'm just trying to... The way I look at it is there's so many people out there, and I resonate with this because I was probably one of them, who wouldn't be comfortable making a decision like that of like, just go overseas, you'll figure it out, give yourself some time, use it as an opportunity to, try some little random jobs that you might not necessarily do back here in Australia. And in the grand scheme of things, 25, you don't really have a huge amount to lose if it doesn't go to plan.
Yeah, but I think, I know the main reason I could actually go overseas and make that decision and be comfortable taking on those other jobs was because of my boyfriend. Because he just gave me so much confidence, and he'd done all this before. He literally had lived most of his life overseas traveling.
Great.
So for me to go overseas, I knew I was going to a safe place.
Yeah.
I trusted this person.
Yeah.
And I know I could not make the decision to go overseas if it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
Like if he was out of the picture and I had this thought in my head, maybe I should move to Canada.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I honestly owe so much, if not like this huge trajectory change in my life. I owe that to my boyfriend, because he gave me the courage and the confidence to actually explore the world, explore more about myself. So a huge credit to him. That's
amazing. And a lot of the time, that's all people need. They just need someone to say, like, yeah, you can do this. Like, someone who can say, give you that level of confidence where it takes out all of the noise, whether it's from parents or media or whoever it might be. You just need one person in your case, because I'm sure for your boyfriend, on the other side of the coin, there was probably a handful of people saying, like, no, what are you doing? You've just finished your degree. Like, you've spent all this money at university. You need to go get a job, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting.
Yeah.
And just touching on the uni stuff. So you mentioned towards the end you were slightly, I guess, like a little bit burnt out, a little bit unsure.
Yes.
When you started university, were you super laser focused on like degree, job in graphic design? I know this is what I want to do. Or were you a little bit like on the fence at that point?
I knew I wanted to go into this degree and do something in design, because prior to that I had spent 2 years working, so as a medical receptionist. So when I left school in year 12, I went straight into a uni degree. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I took the broadest thing I could get. It was like science, English, drama. It was like doing school all over again. But I basically did it to try and get myself because I know the OP finishes at after 12 months. So I was like, at least I'll get some credit if I do a year here and I want to do something later. Yeah. So that was the reason why I did that. I was like, I'm not doing this for another year. What a waste. It's not my passion. So I stopped that. And then I worked full time for 2 years. As a medical receptionist.
Are you studying in the background or no study?
No, absolutely nothing. And then after 2 years, I was like, I actually want to do design. I want to go back to uni and study. So I quit that job, went to uni, studied this degree, realised, I don't know, this is not really what I want to do either. And but hey, I learned some great skills, and I did build up a bit of confidence. But yeah, it still didn't really give me all the confidence to make myself believe that I could do this. So that was something I really had to overcome. Like when I was in Canada, I thought, okay, moving over to Canada, I'll be able to, start up my own business and do things online, do some drawings, whatever it was. But for some reason, I never got around to it. I always talked about it, but I never actually did it.
Yeah.
And Jessie was like, why aren't you doing it? You talk, but you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just don't. And, after lots of discussions, he's like, you don't believe in yourself. You don't believe you can do it. And so that was a huge hurdle I needed to get over. So, I left after a year in Canada. We came back, and again, I just needed that kick up the ass to actually get in and do some design work, because Jess is like, you're not going to be a designer. You don't do anything. Like, you're all in your head. So I was like, oh my gosh, okay, fine. Still didn't do anything. He's like, Liv, you need to sit down and draw me something. And so I was like, fine. He's like, just draw me a sticker. So I was like, okay. I was like, well, this is kind of fun. This is kind of good. Look. And I was really proud of myself. And it was amazing. He's like, see, you can do it. You're amazing. You're a great designer. So, again, I had to get a few more kicks to actually get some things done. He's like, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to build yourself a portfolio. You're going to do it for yourself. And you're going to, send out resumes and apply and do all the rest. So, and even though after each design I did or each drawing I did, I felt a lot of confidence. I was like, wow, I'm actually not bad, and I really enjoyed this. It was what was really stopping me of diving in was the self-confidence. Being like, I just felt like a fraud, that I was maybe copying things too much, even though, at the end of it, it doesn't look anything like it, but it's all that negative talk you get. But I finished the portfolio finally. I think I redesigned it 3 times, and it took way longer to actually get out. But finally did it, sent it out, and got an email from you guys not long after.
There you go.
And here we are. And what I've really come to learn is actually working in the industry is what has given me the most confidence. And it's built up so quickly, a lot faster than I ever would have imagined. It's just, you need to put yourself out there and you can come from feeling like you have absolutely no experience, but if you have just that little bit of passion and you really know it's what you want to do, it's so much, it's easier said than done. I 100% believe that, and I've lived that. But you need to realize, to grow that confidence, you have to put yourself out there and jump in the deep end. Because as I said, being here has given me the confidence I needed to call myself a graphic designer. And when people say, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm a graphic designer. And it feels so good every time I say that, because I've been wanting to say that for years, and I finally can. And
I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who are in the same shoes that you were in, whereas they've got skills, they know how to create some great designs, but they don't necessarily have the confidence. For you, where do you reckon that originally stemmed from, that lack of confidence to actually take your skills to the next level and try to apply them within a professional role?
So it came, I definitely think it came from uni, because I find the assessments that you do and things you are told to do are very constricted. They really don't give you much flexibility to express yourself as who you want to be. It's like, this is your assessment, design within this, and we'll grade you on this. And it's like, all I need is this piece of paper at the end. So fine, look, I'm under a lot of stress. I'll just do what I can and tick it and get it done, and then move on to the next one and get that done. It's very constricting. And so for me, going through uni was literally just all I needed was a pass.
Yeah.
That's all I needed. And so I didn't give myself time to be creative. But also, it's not just uni, it's definitely on me as well. I didn't prioritize doing things outside of uni.
Yeah.
You know, if you really have a passion for something, you're going to want to develop your skills in your own personal time. So whether that's reading up on creative books, signing up to emails where you're getting, you know, the latest fonts or creative ideas, you know, you're buying or not buying, you're drawing and you're experimenting and you're showing people as well what your skills are. So there's a lot of personal accountability to that as well. So with that combination, I was failing myself when it came to the end of uni and feeling like I could actually produce something I was proud of.
So you felt you lost a little bit of that sort of like self-creativity, because for however long you'd just been like following scopes or directions from a particular assignment or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And that's maybe in the back of your mind maybe played a little bit of a negative effect on your confidence when it came to, can I actually deliver something which doesn't have clear instructions or doesn't have someone who's ticking all these boxes on the other side.
Yeah, and another huge part of it is I really didn't have anyone in my corner to push me.
Yeah.
You know, of course, I grew up in a beautiful family. They're always so supportive. But sometimes you need someone to push you and tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And that's what Jesse has done for me.
Yeah.
And that's why I just value him so much.
Yeah.
And respect him so much. Because he was that push I needed. He told me the truth, and there were definitely tears.
Yeah.
Like more than a few times. It's like, what? No one's ever spoken to me like this. I'm a designer.
Yeah.
He's like, no, are you designing? No, you're not doing anything. So, and that's a very rare thing. So, yeah, for me, like, Jesse was that person to do that for me. And it's something that I think a lot of people need.
Yeah.
And something that we all need to understand if someone is trying to, you know, put themselves in an industry. As a friend, you need to look at it from a third person and question them.
Yeah.
And ask them the hard questions, because in the end you might actually change their lives and change their direction.
100%. It sort of comes down to like, how much do you really want to put yourself out there to achieve what you want to achieve? And it sounds like in this situation where you wanted it, but you didn't really know how to apply yourself to sort of get there. And then Jesse in this situation gave you a little bit of a kick.
Yeah.
It might have hurt when he kicked you, but it propelled you forward.
Oh yeah.
And then got you in the position to be in front of people and to start designing again, or to apply a little bit more creativity or whatever.
Definitely.
It might have been.
And it was the best thing that could have ever happened.
So obviously here at Moonward, you're very heavy on branding and UI UX for our clients. But at this point in time, as you sort of come back from Canada, you started doing a lot more design. Were you doing like UI UX or more like creative drawings and branding and that sort of stuff?
It was actually more print work.
Yeah.
I was very scared of UI UX. I remember in uni, they would talk about, now being a UI UX designer, or this is UI UX design. I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to be a UI UX designer. That scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I don't even know what those words mean.
It's way too technical.
What is it? So that actually scared me. So whenever, eventually when I was scrolling looking for jobs, I'd often avoid anything that said UI UX. I was like, can't do that.
No.
But coming back, when I came back from Canada, it was definitely for that reason, more print-based, more drawing. I had my iPad and I loved that. So, you know, I did it, like, I drew a couple of stickers and products as well, product brands, and I really enjoyed that. And it was because I didn't really have much experience or even know-how on how to design a digital thing. I remember showing my portfolio to one of my best friends from uni, and she was like, "This is fantastic, Liv." And I was like, "Can you give me like any more tips on what you think I should do?" And she'd say, "Oh, I reckon you should do some sort of digital.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great thing to get into, and a lot of people are doing it these days, and blah blah blah." I was like, "Oh yeah, true." And I was sort of like, "Oh, I don't know if I can do that," but I was like, "Look, my next thing I'll try."
Yeah.
And I think I did some sort of digital thing, but I actually can't remember what it was in my portfolio in the end. I don't even know if I... Surely I did, but I don't know what it was.
So at this point in time, you've put together the portfolio, you're applying for jobs, the opportunity at Moonward comes up, and there's an internship. How did you intern for 6 weeks, 8 weeks?
8 weeks, I think.
8 weeks. Yeah. And how did you find it? Take me through your initial thoughts, let's say the first few days.
Oh my God. Okay, so the first few days were the best because I hadn't been working, I think for like a good few months.
Yeah. Because
I hated what propelled me to actually, you know, finish off my portfolio and apply to be a graphic designer was because I hated where I was. So I quit that, stopped working. So to be brought in on an internship to be in a business kind of environment that in itself was very exciting.
Yeah. So
I got there and I sat down at my desk, and then like meeting the people and everyone here was incredible, and I was like, everyone's so nice, and my gosh, it's just like a young vibe, and I really love it.
Yeah.
And I remember going home and you know telling them, I was like, oh my God, I had the best day, and it was like so fun. And I remember for 2 weeks I'm like, everyone is just so nice, and we're laughing at lunchtime and all this kind of stuff. So it was a great first impression.
And the design side of things, because obviously we're very digital.
Yes.
So at this point, you hadn't really done a huge amount of digital. You'd done a lot of print, a lot of like designs and brands and whatnot. But digital, you were still a little bit unsure on at that point.
Yeah. It wasn't that I was unsure about it, because when I was given my project, actually no, you are right. I was very unsure, because I remember designing my first screen and I had no idea about padding or sizing and all this kind of stuff. And I remember Lockie was like, "Oh, Liv, why don't you read? I have this great article on padding." And that article has literally changed my life and how I design screens now. And it was just that in itself was fantastic. You don't have to know, everything. It's just whether it's like 3 things: padding, a flow of screen to screen, and the text, like what you write on there.
Yeah. That's
really, if you've got that, then I think building on top of that with each new design have come in, you just get naturally better and better, and you challenge yourself. But yeah, that first, it was funny, like that first project ended up being harder than what I thought.
Yeah.
But when I actually presented my design for the first time, I was like, this is my screen, this is what it looks like. And then I learned about padding and everything like that. And I actually surprised myself at how quickly I changed and how dynamically I was able to change. I really pride myself on taking on criticism and advice and suggestions, because I want to be really good at where I am and what I do, and I love design and I love what I do here. So I value, any criticism that comes to me, because I know it's going to make me better.
Yeah. So would you say the first few weeks of the internship were very positive, I guess very constructive as well?
Definitely, 100% from absolutely everyone as well.
Yeah.
Whether I had someone like peek over my screen and be like, oh, hey, that's looking really good.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, yeah, like, is there anything you can help me with? And they'd explain something to me and in a really nice way, and everyone was just there to help me.
Yeah.
It was a great experience. I was just felt so welcomed.
And touching on the confidence side of things, was there ever a point where you were like, oh, like I can actually design digital as well?
Yes. It was when it was like the final day of my internship.
Yeah.
And
come to the final day.
Yeah, the final day. And I did my proper like presentation of Pay Ready. And
yeah, I remember it.
Yeah, and I went through everything and presented it, and I was really happy with it. And I was I was just so happy with what I'd done, coming from 8 weeks ago where I knew absolutely nothing, and then having transformed an idea into an app. And I just remember that I think I presented my ideas 3 times throughout my internship, and each time was so different, and each time just got like 1,000 times better than the time before.
Yeah.
So that was a great learning experience, and a great confidence builder as well.
Yeah. And so you mentioned that like each of those 3 times you almost had like compounding returns, like there was drastic changes every single time. So the first version that you delivered compared to the last version was very different.
Night and day.
Yeah.
Night and day. Literally, it was like dark mode, light mode.
Quite literally. So have you sort of taken that same approach or that similar concept into project work? Because obviously that was more like internal project, internship type stuff. How did you transition to that to then working on like real client work?
It allowed me to be more open and flexible with designs, even though I didn't have any prior experience. It allowed me going into my first project being like, this is what the client wants, this is my first version, here you go. And for them to be like, oh, I don't like this, or can we change this? I was instantly like positive about it, be like, fantastic, we're improving the app.
Yeah.
Like, this is what my previous experience was, where I got criticism, or not even criticism, more like, oh, I think we can do this, or why don't we improve this? By getting those comments made it better. So when I go into project work and present these screens or initial screens to clients, and they see it and then they have opinions about it, criticisms or suggestions, I take that on board as something so positive, because I know it's just going to improve the app, but also in turn it'll make them happier as well. It's ultimately their app in the end, and I'm just here to take their ideas and bring it to make something visual out of it. So I want them to see something that is them, and not something that I've created. I'm just helping them get there step by step.
So you're in a very unique position where you have feedback from clients. They generally have the big picture vision. They're generally quite creative and have these really cool ideas, and they're looking 3, 4, 5 years down the line. And then as a designer, you're getting this feedback from the development team as well. And from a development perspective, they're less so focused on naturally they're less so focused on the big picture vision, and they're more so focused on the development side of things, the functionality side of things, how they can make all of these different features work together from a pure code perspective. So as a designer sitting in the middle, how do you try and bring these two forces together to ensure that everyone is somewhat happy with the end result?
Yeah, good question. I thought it would be hard, but it's actually, to me, such a natural thing to do. Because with each project, I learn something new about, how a flow works or what needs to be included. I was very surprised at how quickly I got used to that. So, for example, the sign up, what to include with that. It's very almost straightforward. And then combining that with what the client wants, you add in, the branding, the talk, the personality of it. So I've actually found, I like the idea of being the middleman, of being the person for the client to bring their ideas to life and create something visual, but at the same time, creating a software that makes sense and has proper functionality. And I really enjoy that process. I don't find it conflicting at all. Or at least I haven't come across a point where it has been. I'm sure there are definitely situations, where that definitely happens. But I personally haven't had an experience of that. But yeah, I really enjoy that. I really enjoy the process of as I said, being the middleman and combining the client and the developer points of views and what they want into a software.
And what was how were you feeling the first time you had gone through the design process with the client, handed it over to the development team, and you actually saw whatever you were designing being converted into real life code, real life software?
It was really exciting. I remember the first app and just seeing the screen on the developer's page and not knowing what the hell they were coding, but knowing it had to do with this screen that I'd made. And the thought of, oh my gosh, like this app that I've designed could be on the Apple Store that people are using was such an exciting feeling and brought so much, a boost of confidence to be like, wow, like I'm actually almost like legit. And it also pushed me to be better as well. It was like a realization that my stuff is potentially going to be out there, used by people. So my next product needs to be better than what I've designed before. So I'm always pushing myself to learn better functionality and communication through the apps and digital software we design. So I'm definitely in my element because I love all the aspects of what it is to be a UI UX designer.
And if you were to say, jump in a time machine and go backwards to that day you were signing up to university, 2 questions.
Yes.
Would you have signed up? And if so, why? If not, what advice would have you given to yourself, knowing where you are now?
Question 1, would I have signed up? Yes.
Great.
Why? Because if I knew that's what I was going to be, a UI UX graphic designer working for an app development company, oh my God, like you'd be an idiot to say no. It's just an incredible sentence, an incredible thing to say about yourself. So absolutely. And what was the second question?
And looking back now, knowing where you are now, what advice would you give to yourself? Go to Canada?
Well, I didn't know about Canada at that point. That is a hard one because I'd never try to live life with regrets.
I agree.
Because the things that you learn push you to be, and the things you encounter in life, you know, create the person you are today. And you always want to be a better person no matter where you are in your personal life, in your work life. So that in itself is its own thing. But if I was to say something to myself back then, I'd just be like, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, let life take you where it's going to take you and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Don't stress about what isn't going to happen or what all the what ifs, because it's not worth it. Just let it happen naturally.
Yeah.
And enjoy the process.
I think that's great. A good friend of mine once told me, never lose sleep over a decision you never made.
I know that one.
And I feel like this resonates to
Yeah.
your story. Whereas there's been a lot of little micro chapters, and you've been very open to saying yes, which I think is very cool and very inspiring to the team members, a lot of our clients who are jumping into a project, jumping into something that they don't necessarily have a lot of knowledge about, which is also very inspiring as well. So I guess finally to wrap up, for those budding designers out there, or anyone who's sort of looking from the outside in on a tech company or an app development company, from your point of view, what is the biggest misconception that people have over the app design industry as a whole?
The app design industry, I would say, well, I don't know about the app design industry itself. My opinion would be focused on like going into an industry that maybe you want to go into but you're afraid to.
Mm-hmm.
The misconception is that everyone who works there knows exactly what they're doing and they have from day one. It's so wrong, because everyone is learning, and to be learning every day means that you're in the right place.
Yeah.
It's so important to have that in an environment and in a workplace. If you're not learning, get out and find something else, because you are going to be so bored.
Yeah.
So that would be...
I couldn't agree more. You're not only going to bring down the vibes and you're going to drag down the people who are in that environment, but you're also going to be bored. The day you stop learning is the day you start dying, as they say.
Totally.
So I think that's a great little way to wrap things up. So thank you very much for sharing your story. I was saying to the guys that there's genuinely a lot of information that has come out from this chat that I didn't even know, and I don't even think they'll know. So worst case, the team will enjoy listening to this one. I think it's been really cool.
It's been very cool. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. Cool.
Very good.
That was good.
Great.